Monday morning and over the weekend a complete revamp in the workshop. You can't see much. I've got a floor, I've got a carpet. Couldn't see the carpet before. Stuff everywhere over the floor. I don't like stuff on the floor because obviously it's a trip hazard and you can't clean up. There was dust, bits of wire, you know where I strip bits of wire, about 3 billion bits of wire on the floor. Right, welcome to you, Andrew from New Zealand. I did say welcome last week at the end of the video, but we're starting a new one, so welcome to you, Andrew, and Neil from UK. Welcome to you both. Hope you enjoy the videos. I've done this DAT 98 almost. I've got to clean the dial glass. Remember, when cleaning these, be very careful. Be afraid, be very afraid, because you start cleaning the back there where the writing is and it'll just come off. Very, very, tempting to get a bit of whatever kitchen cleaner stuff and a sponge and clean all that off there, but you'll have a nice plain piece of glass if you do that. So that's that. Right, what else? A lot of interest. You know this mini whip active antenna that I've been banging on about. A lot of interest. A lot of people have expressed a lot of interest because not so much for shortwave and that sort of thing, not so much for hearing distant stations and all, around the world and stuff, but just for listening to ordinary medium and long wave stations without a load of noise. Right, I've done I made a quick video clip here which isn't brilliant. It was a bit of a lash up. Just have a look at the video clip and then I'll explain what's going on.
A couple of animal charities onto the programme, haven't we? Including Paws for Support, which has therapy dogs in schools in Guernsey, and I think it was a couple of weeks ago I went to Les Bois School.
That was Radio Guernsey, BBC Radio Guernsey, which isn't bad. Bear in mind, you've probably seen the reception on my communications receiver, my transceiver. Bear in mind that is 100 times better selectivity, sensitivity, etc. than any of these old valve radios, all right? But that's not bad for Radio Guernsey. I mean, not that you necessarily want to hear that. Then I do a bit of tuning about in the next clip.
Very unhappy about.
So now what's the rest of this?
I don't know
Now
what
is
you...
it really playing to the wind?
Well, if you send a free message on, and of course we're on Facebook and Twitter. George McRae on Smooth
and this is RTE on 252 kilohertz long wave, all the way from the Irish Republic on long wave.
The landlords are fleeing the market in droves. They can't get out quick enough. A whole low-price rental market has been destroyed.
And finally, this is BBC Radio Solent.
If you're a fan of the film or you've read the book, when they swing the girl from her pigtails, it is quite fantastic. So if you get a chance to take your family along, it's money well spent.
Brilliant. So we had Becky and Tobias in, didn't we, a little while ago. And
Bear in mind, all these old radios, you're putting a lot of signal into the aerial socket, so it will, in some cases, it will overload the radio, and you might get some distortion. Also, bear in mind, I mean, this is in the daytime. I was sorry, I had to do it in the kitchen because I can't explain all that. I normally would do it here, but I had to put the radio in the kitchen because the whole area is set up for my radio room, which is upstairs, so I couldn't do it anyway. It wouldn't reach, basically. The kayaks wouldn't reach to the workshop. Bear in mind also, you're going to get several stations at once on one frequency, the weekend. I mean, no communications receiver will cope with that. You can't separate them if they're on the same frequency. Let's turn this woman off. Peace. That's better. And I've noticed, was it on Talk Sport or 5 Live? Can't remember. I think it was Talk Sport of the weekend. I tuned into that and I found there was echoing and it sounded really weird. That's because I was listening to like 6 transmitters at once. I mean, you're not meant to pick up 6 transmitters on one frequency. Normally you pick up the local transmitter and the others won't even reach your radio. So yes, there are, when you're using old valve radios, there are pros and cons really. Bear in mind also, because you have several people who said, I'm going to go and buy one of these. Bear in mind you will need to put it up on a pole away from the house, right? It's only a little tube, as you know, with coax out of the bottom. You're going to have to get it well away from the house. Yeah, there are quite a few things to take into consideration. And of course at night, you're going to be jam-packed with stations on the dial. I mean, it was 26 quid from Hong Kong. You know, if you want to go for it, then you're not going to lose a lot of money if you find that at your particular location it's not particularly good. Also, as you probably heard when I was tuning around, there was some buzzing, some noise. You're not going to get rid of all the buzzing unless you put the thing, you know, like, I don't know, 200 or 300 yards away from the house on a 50-foot pole. You know, then you might be clear of all the interference coming from the house. So yes, there's quite a lot to it. But I just thought I'd give you that quick demonstration. What I didn't do, I should have put it on video with Solent and Guernsey. Unplug this thing so the radio's on its internal aerial, and there's nothing. Just nothing on that frequency at all. This brings us nicely onto the blackboard. This is your medium wave dial. This is your pointer. Okay. You tune into a station here, which you're receiving. It's reasonable strength, you can hear it. You can also hear another station in the background. That shouldn't be there. Say this is Radio A, that should be there, Radio A, coming from wherever. You're also getting Radio B, which shouldn't be here. What's that? You look up Radio B, look up its frequency, it's on the same channel, the same frequency. Okay? That is co-channel interference. Now Radio A, let's say it's Radio Brighton, from, you know, it's 10 miles that way from me. I'm listening to Radio Brighton. Okay, Radio, let's say Anglesey from Wales. Radio Anglesey is on the same frequency, and normally I wouldn't be able to hear Anglesey. I'd only hear Brighton. Under certain conditions, propagation type conditions, Anglesey will come in, and I'm picking up Anglesey in the background behind Radio Brighton. That is co-channel interference. Right, I just want to clear up this interference thing. Turn that down a bit. That's co-channel interference on the same frequency. Adjacent channel interference, so I'm listening to Radio Brighton here, which is the right place for it on the dial. Just here is another station. That's Radio, I don't know, Radio whatever, Radio Blogs. Okay, I'm hearing that as well, adjacent channel. That's probably because my receiver is quite wide. The IF, you know, the pass band is quite wide, the bandwidth. So I'm picking up both at once. That's adjacent channel, which is sort of self-explanatory, I suppose, isn't it? Now we come to the complicated one. Okay, image interference. It's not actually complicated. I don't know why I said that. Probably seems complicated to me. I always get mixed up with figures. I'm no good at figures. This is shortwave, 4, 5, 6 megs, all right? Let's say on our radio, the oscillator is, the IF is 1 meg. It's easier to work out than 4, 6, 5 and all that. So the IF frequency is 1 meg. We've got 5 meg signal coming down the aerial. That's what we want to hear. So we mark, the dial is marked 5 megs where the pointer is. Okay, that's the signal frequency coming down the aerial. What actually happens in the radio, if you remember, is we've got the local oscillator and the IF frequency, right? The oscillator always runs higher than the signal frequency. So the oscillator, right, will be running on, we want to hear 5 megs. The oscillator's running at 6 megs, okay? Right, I'm confusing myself here. I didn't do it this way. I don't know, I always do this. I always get confused with all this. It's clear in my mind, but it's how to explain it. We want to listen on 5 megs, all right? Want to listen on that. Our IF is 1 meg, to make it all simple. So the oscillator's on 6 megs, okay? 6 minus 1 equals 5, okay? The oscillator always runs at a higher frequency than the dial frequency. So we're listening on our dial to 5 megs, okay? That's what the dial pointer says, 5 megs. So the oscillator runs at 6, okay? The difference being the IF, which is 1 meg. Right, you can have this the other way round. This is what is the image. Well, that is the frequency we want, 5 megs. Okay, 6 minus 1 gives us 5. If you have 6 plus 1, that gives us 7 megs. We don't want to hear what's on 7 megs, do we? That is the image frequency. Do you see how that works? You've got coming in your aerial are all the frequencies, 5, 7 megs, all the frequencies come in the aerial. The oscillator runs at 6 megs. Okay. Normally what you would do is minus the IF gives us 5 megs, the signal frequency. Okay, the oscillator always runs higher than the signal frequency. So that's that. But the image is the oscillator plus the IF. That gives us 7 megs. So you're hearing stations on 5 megs, but you're also hearing them on the image frequency of 7 megs. Do you see what I mean? The oscillator's in the middle. So we're either taking one away, which is what we want to do, or we're adding the IF. So that is the image frequency. Yeah, sorry, I don't know why I've always got confused about this. I remember in one of the videos I was saying the oscillator always runs lower than the signal frequency. No, of course it doesn't. Because in that case, you'd have, for example, long wave, radio 4, what is it, 199 kilohertz, right? If you minus the 465 oscillator, well, you've got kind of minus, there is no frequency. Do you see what I mean? You know, say 199 minus 465, well, there isn't a frequency. You go down to DC. So the oscillator always runs higher than the frequency you're listening to. So that's what the image is. Now, with this aerial, just going back to the mini whip aerial, it overloads receivers. Now that radio I showed you, the GEC radio, it overloads receivers like that. On some parts of the band there was whistling. There's stations that shouldn't be there, right, in the wrong place. I mean, I didn't sort of log all this carefully. I just had a quick tune up and down. And that's what it is. We've got all sorts of stuff coming in that shouldn't be there on the wrong, you know, as with the image. Adjacent channel interference, because it's the receiver is not designed, it's not a communications receiver. It's just a domestic valve radio. So it's, you know, the front end isn't particularly good, and you go and stick a really good aerial like the mini whip on it, you're getting stations all over the place. Some of them shouldn't be there. You tune in, you think, hello, what's that doing there? You know, that's radio so-and-so, that should be there. Why is it here as well? There's all sorts of stuff going on. So that's it. So there's co-channel on the same frequency. There's adjacent channel, which speaks for itself. It's on the next channel. If your radio is too wide, it receives them both. And there's image frequency interference, where not only you want to listen on 5 megs, but you're also getting stuff on 7 megs come through. Right, I think that's cleared that up. What you do to prevent this image thing happening is before the mixer, the aerial side, okay, you have tuned circuits there. So that the tuned circuits there, you will listen to 5 megs. They are listening. You're on 5 megs there, and it will reject frequencies out away from 5 megs. So you've got a filter at the front, for the front end, where the aerial side of the mixer valve, a filter that will hopefully only allow what you're listening to on 5 megs. You know, on your tuning capacitor, you've got the oscillator and the aerial side. That's what the aerial side of the tuning capacitor does. It peaks up what you're listening to on the dial. Okay, in this case I'm listening on whatever it is, Radio 5 Live. It peaks up on that frequency, so the image has a job to get through. Yeah, it's all very simple, but it can be overcomplicated by people like me. Someone else will probably explain it in a couple of minutes, and you think, oh yeah, that's simple. When I come along, you know, 3 hours later, you're thinking, well, what's he on about? So that's that. What else? I was going to mention one other thing, which I now forget. The IF frequency of radios, right? I think we've done this before. For example, 465 kilohertz. The IF frequencies are chosen because that's on 465. There are no stations transmitting. That's kind of between medium and long wave, if you like. All right, if you go here to the top of your dial, it's that's in meters. Well, what is it? It's about 500 kcs, isn't it? Between there and long wave, there's a little band of frequencies that no one transmits on. That's where IF frequencies are. Okay, if you got a strong station, say locally, transmitting on 465 kilohertz, it would come straight through the front end of the receiver into the IF. You'd hear that. That's IF breakthrough. Okay, that's another form of interference that we don't have these days. And you know it's IF breakthrough because wherever you tune on the dial, you can hear the station. The tuning makes no difference. That means it's coming straight into the IF on the IF frequency. This one's interesting. This is an estimate. Oh dear, I daren't even turn it on. All the capacitor, there's rust everywhere for a start, very rusty, and corrosion, so it's been in a damp place. Now where's that damp place? I reckon it's a shed. I reckon it's a garden shed because look at the video clip. This has been home to a mouse. Look at this. Oops. In the cabinet there are seeds, and you see all this, you see these capacitors, they've been chewed. The wax has come off a lot of them. Look at that, they've been chewed down to the metal, the aluminium foil in there, which is, oh dear, this is going to be quite a job, this estimate. I don't know whether you can see that in there. There are seeds and shells of nuts and whatever. So this has been home to a mouse. I've just been in touch with the chap, and he says he'll take it back as it is. He doesn't want it done. It's the time it would take. This is the trouble. It's had so much chewed. I noticed that even the oscillator coil has been damaged. I don't know whether that's been chewed. I think the mouse must have quite liked the taste of wax because that's what he's done. He's chewed the wax off everything. Now the oscillator coil's got wax on it and he's chewed that. The output transformer doesn't look healthy. That's down to chewing and rust. Anyway, the chap's going to pick it up at some stage, so there we are. Quite a shame. What he's done is cleaned up all the outside. It looks lovely, looks really nice, all polished up quite well. Bit of a dent in there, but of course inside, that's where the problem is. And I wonder why there was a hole there. That's very unusual. If you look, there's little teeth marks around that hole. So this was home to a mouse. Right, what's next? Let's move on. I said earlier in the video that Radio 4 long waves on 199, didn't I? It's not, it's 198, isn't it? It used to be, I believe it was on 200 kcs, but they had to move it. Is it 198? They had to move it to get in line with what everyone's agreed in Europe. In America it's 10 kc spacing between stations. Here it's 9 kc. I don't know why it's 9. Why 9? Oh, anyway, whatever. That's that. This is the radio I used, to demonstrate the mini whip aerial.
Throughout the day and
now
temperatures 23 to 27 degrees Celsius. Further north.
It's now Bluetooth. Oh, sorry.
BBC Sound. Download the free BBC.
The thing is, this chap, as I think I explained, where he lives, he's just not picking up anything. He can't get any signals. He put an aerial in. I said get 30 or 40 feet of wire. He put an aerial into it, and even then he said yes, he was getting a few stations, but it wasn't very good at all. So good case to add that to it, the B word. All I've done is disconnect the loudspeaker, okay, and connect the Bluetooth to that, and replace the volume control. The original volume control is still in there. It's just pushed back a little bit. It's all connected, and I put another volume control in. So to put it back to a radio, all you need to do is put the volume control back in its hole, do the nut up, and connect the loudspeaker up. That's it. I haven't done anything else to it. You have to remove the Bluetooth board, of course. So yeah, that's a good case, because he wants to hear this radio working, you know, like it used to when, I don't know, when his whoever it was had it, grandfather, grandmother, wants to hear it working again. And of course now it does, and the dial lights up and everything, so that's that. Right, Paul, welcome to Paul, new member. Hello Paul, hope you enjoy the videos. Paul's in France, and he emailed me and he said, have I any knowledge of French radios? I haven't, Paul, I'm afraid. I've done one or two in my time. They're lovely. They've got like mother of pearl each side with lights. You know, you might have 3 or 4 dial lights each side behind the mother of pearl, and they look like mini jukeboxes, some of them. They're fantastic to look at. I mean, some of them are ugly, like some of the British radios are ugly, but some of them are really nice to look at. All I said to Paul about ones to avoid, well, try and go for ones with a mains transformer, so you haven't got a live chassis. Try and avoid VHF FM, because, you know, if you're just starting out in radio, you don't want to get bogged down with FM stuff. So yeah, so hopefully we'll hear from you, Paul. We'll have some photos of any radios you might have bought in France. That'd be interesting, actually. Don't get many you know, much info about French radios here, so photographs of anything you might get hold of would be interesting, I'm sure, to other members. That's that. Well, I was going to mention something else which I forget, so I'll be back in a minute. Right, that's coin silence. Just heard from Kenny. Hello Kenny. He's bought one of these mini whip aerials. He saw the video last week. I said to him, that's on an email, that's a bit quick from Hong Kong. No, he bought it locally. He was mentioning it to some radio amateur chap, and he said, oh, I've got one, you know, if you want it. Anyway, he's got the mini whip, same as mine. And his question was, he's tuning around medium wave, as I was, because of course he hasn't seen this video yet, it's not out till next Monday. And he says, I've got whistling in certain places, all this whistling. That's what it is, Kenny, it's the overloading, you know, you've got too much signal. Anyway, he's found a kind of a solution, he said. He sort of realised what it was. He had the aerial at 25 feet up on this fishing pole thing. He's brought it down to 15 feet, so the aerial is picking up, you know, the amount of gain is less, if you like, going into the radio. And he says that's it. There's still some noises in places, buzzing and that here and there. There will be, because we're surrounded by buzzing, if you like. We've got a blanket of buzzing over us. But no, he's delighted with it. Just all this whistling and stuff. He says even when they're only down at 15 feet, in the evenings and at night when it's dark, he said he's just got hundreds of stations all over the place, which is what it's all about, of course. If you want it purely to improve sort of your Radio 4, Smooth Radio, Talk Sport, Radio 5 Live, etc., then lower it down. This is what he's done. I've now put mine up. Mine was what, 16 feet. It's now 22 feet, and I'm getting a lot more stations, which is better. So it's a bit of experimentation anyway. That's what it's all about. Look at this. There we are, CQ. Now, what's this all about? I was going to show you a close-up. I'll show you. There's a picture of it. There you are. It's a high mound Morse key. These were made in Japan. Was it the 60s? It's a high mound manipulator. MK701. I think that's Mark 701. High mound manipulator Mark 701. That's my call sign. This is a single paddle. And you know I was after one with 2 paddles. You've got dashes one side, dots the other. Okay, but with the 2 paddle one you can squeeze them together, and depending on which one you hit first, you get dash dot dash dot dash dot continually, or dot dash dot dash dot dash continually. This is purely dashes that side, dots that side. Okay. Yeah. What was that then? That's interesting. Haha. There are some Morse readers out there among you, I know. I shouldn't be playing with this. I've got radios to do. I've found this plastic box, and I'm putting the stuff in there. There's the PP3 and the board, and I've found a different control there. The speaker's too big. I want a little transistor radio speaker. I've had to order one. I used to have dozens of those, but not dealing with transistor radios anymore. I haven't got any. That won't fit in the box. So to vary the speed, this here on the front is on, off and whatever. But the speed, you can go, where are we? Yeah, there's the dots. You can turn this up to, till it's mental. There we are. Let's turn that off. I've got to get on with some work. I'm just waiting for the little speaker. And the key plugs into there. That will plug into the transceiver I've got, or plug into this and then into the transceiver. The transceiver's got its own gubbins built in. Right, let's not bore you with that. Oh, look, we've done the B word and we've done the M word now. M for Morse. We've got to get back to some radios. Just had another DAT90A come in, which is good. And then what's after that? I'm not sure. Getting through the week, the thing, where are we? 20 to 11, and it's nice and sunny outside. It's so tempting to go out there and do some Morse code in the garden. Now I've got to get used to this. As I say, I'm used to 2 paddles. You might think, well, what's the difference? There is a difference. There we are. Anyway, I'm not going to get used to that now. Let's get back to some serious work. And now for something completely different. Now, as a telly, this is a Perdio, the first, crackly volume control, the first ever, I believe, transistorized telly, 1960s, I think. Someone gave it to me. A friend of mine's had it for years, and it was in his loft, and he said, well, do you want this? So I said, okay. Not quite sure what for. I don't know what's happened here to the frame. Never mind. So it picks up noises, or it did. Interference. So there we are. The first ever transistorized telly, made by Perdio. It's quite nice condition. I mean, it is a bit of a collector's thing. Yeah, it runs from 12 volts as well as the mains. So, it's quite a nice looking thing. It's nice clean condition. Thing is what to do with it. Right, that's it for this week, I think. Friday, no sunshine at the moment, which is probably best to cool down a bit. Yes, I think that's it. Nothing else I was going to mention. Have a good weekend. No, you've had your weekend. I always say that, don't I? You've had your weekend by now. I am going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to have a nice afternoon off. I'm going to have Friday afternoon off and Saturday and Sunday off, of course. So nothing planned apart from doing a bit of gardening. Rather nice. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye-bye.